everyone listening to this, every analytics account I've ever seen, and I have access to like 800, they all have low-hanging fruit, striking distance phrases, key phrase opportunities that take minutes to capitalize on that would quadruple the organic traffic to a page by moving it from the top of page 2 to the bottom of page 1.
Welcome to the Magnificent Marketing Podcast, where we interview the top marketing experts in the world and keep you up to date on all the changes and best practices to help you grow your business and stay on the cutting edge. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today again with Andy Crestodina, and Andy has been in the web design and interactive marketing space since January of 2000. In that time, he's helped thousands of people do a better job getting results online. He's a true evangelist for content marketing and ethical digital marketing. Together with the team at Orbit Media, Andy has put out some of the best digital marketing advice available in hundreds of practical articles, including posts on virtually all of the top marketing websites. Then there's his book, Content Chemistry, which is currently in its 3rd edition. Andy is also a regular speaker both locally and nationally. Not only is Andy a founder of Content Jam, Chicago's largest content marketing conference, currently in its 6th year now, Andy.
That's right.
But he's also a regular face on the national circuit. If you go to a content marketing conference, the one Chicagoan you're most likely to hear is Andy Crestodina. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, Dave. I am good.
Awesome. Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about how to audit your content so you know what's working and what's not working. And this is actually, we just brought on a new, an additional senior content manager on our team here, and this is something that's a huge focus for us right now, is to really look for attribution and auditing, and there's a lot to it. We scheduled this a while back, and I forgot what we were going to talk about, and I looked, and I was like, whoa, that's serendipitous timing. So it's hot for me right now, lots of questions. So let's dig right in. Let's first just have you speak a bit on the main reasons of why you need to be doing this. It might be logical to some people, but maybe not to others, and maybe touch on the 80-20 rule I hear you talk a lot about.
Yeah, I don't know that this is obvious. And it wasn't obvious to me until I'd been doing this for like a long time, maybe 7 years, 8 years in content marketing before I figured this one out. So maybe for the listeners, this is a good shortcut. The conclusion to jump to it is basically that for a lot of us who have been publishing even for a little while, you can likely get way better results way faster by updating something old compared to writing something new from scratch. That's kind of it, right? Maybe, and the hypothesis sort of sounds like this. Maybe we don't all need to have 1,000 articles. Maybe what we each need to have is 100 really good articles, and that there's greater glory in going back and finding that thing that's almost good and making it better, finding things that are performing okay and making them perform great, finding the topics that got some traction and helping them get a lot of traction. So that's kind of that's the theory and the tactic here, and it all basically comes back to it and starts with that audit.
What about that 80-20 rule? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, that's kind of the same thing, right? It's the original 80-20 rule was, I forgot who came up with this. We could look it up. The idea is that 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort.
Is that just apply to every facet of life?
I think so.
I've been reading this spiritual book, and that's was part of it, as well. And then I was talking to, I think, my wife about something, maybe that, and then she's like, oh, I heard that about that. So I think it might be one of those like universal things that, 80% of your activity or 20% of your activities produce 80% of the results. And that applies here as well. And but I think some analysis has gone to apply it here, or she wouldn't have talked about it. So tell me, is that what you do? I mean, I know you guys push out a ton of new content, but would you be doing even more, or some of that new content really updated content, or do you just slow down on the new content? Would you tell me what you're doing, because you put out some of the best content around, and this isn't lip service. I've told you that before, and even past podcasts and in person. You really put out awesome stuff, and we learn from you all the time. So what do you do? What do you do?
Well, some of the stuff, it may not be obvious on the outside, but
no, it's not.
The last, I think, 5 or 6 articles that I've written, it may not be immediately obvious, but they are actually rewritten articles from years ago. Some of them are 3 years old, some of them are 4 years old. So basically, following the 80-20 rule, which in content is probably like a 95-5 rule, like 5% of your articles are going to be like 95% of your results. The idea is to go back and find those outliers, and they may be the things that a greater percentage of visitors who read them subscribed, or those are the things that are already ranking but not ranking that high, or those are the topics that tend to get shared much, much more when they appear in social streams. And then taking those things and instead of just making a brand new thing with a brand new URL and rewriting something totally from scratch, just find that older thing that maybe it still gets some visibility. Maybe it's still ranking, still getting search traffic, and just without changing the URL.
I was about to ask you about that.
Yeah, this comes up. There's a couple things that come up here. One is about dates on blogs, and others about URL best practices. Without changing the URL, write it or rewrite it. Give it a complete, really reimagine it. And what Ann Handley would say, it's not just updating, it's really taking a pretty big step back. And a lot of these things are like 60 or 80% rewritten. More examples, more depth, more detail, more contributor quotes, more statistics, more images, more formatting, more bullet lists, numbered lists, bolding, subheaders, length, answers, everything. Make it an awesome thing. And then relaunching it, right? You got a little bit of a launch mentality here as a marketer, so it's kind of a new launch around it, and you're putting it back in social streams, and you're sending it out as a brand new newsletter, and you're, repositioning it, but without changing the URL. One quick conclusion that you then make is, well, I put, my URL used to say 7 marketing best practices, but now I've got 15 things in here. So what you'll immediately find is that it's best not to ever put a number in a URL. So going forward, when you do publish something new, don't put numbers in your URLs, because it makes it harder to repurpose that URL later.
Okay.
Does your URL have, so with that thing that was your 10 top tips for blank, now you've got 25, well, kind of awkward if the URL says 10 tips and the article has 25 tips. So the better URL is just website.com/.
That's great. That is great advice moving forward.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be a deterrent to keep the same URL, obviously, right? I mean, it
would not. Nope. No. I would not hesitate to, I'd keep the same URL anyway, even if there is a slight mismatch there. But speaking of URLs there, and this segues into the other topic about dates on blogs, there's kind of a lazy way to build sites in WordPress where the date is pushed into the URL. So the article you might want to update is going to be website.com/2006/5/16/title, because you published it on May 16th in 2006. Not ideal.
Okay.
So if you ever get the chance, if you're ever reconsidering your entire URL structure and rebuilding your website,
take off that auto URL generator.
Yeah, you don't really want that in there.
Gotcha.
The ideal URL is just like website.com/blog/keyword focus title. Yeah, short.
Gotcha.
Specific.
Gotcha. Awesome. Now, okay, we've talked about performing, finding the ones that drive the most, right? But what are we talking about when we say top performers? Are you talking about traffic generators, top converting pages, maybe something else, or both? Or tell me what you're referring to.
Yeah, you basically nailed it right there. The performers are good performers in one of two ways. They are good traffic generators, and that's your cheese, or they're good conversion. They convert at a high rate, which is good mousetraps. And that's the Barry Feldman quote that I can't resist using every time I talk about marketing.
You do.
Cheese and mousetraps, that's our job. And, a dual threat marketer understands both, and you're good at both SEO and CRO, or search optimization and conversion optimization. So it's easy to find your traffic champs, because if you just go to analytics and look at your behavior, site content, all pages report, and choose a date range that maybe doesn't include your last few newsletters or most recent social home runs, you're going to see the outliers immediately. And they jump right out of the data, and it's very common for analytics accounts to show that there's a, your 80-20 rule or your 95-5 rule is right there. So the traffic champs, those are almost always going to be the posts that are outperforming the other posts in search. So that one is kind of easy. There's more details. If you really just wanted to see search, you could create a segment, or you could add a secondary dimension, just use source medium and filter for search. But mostly everyone knows what their traffic champs are. If you are using a tool like Moz, you can quickly see which posts are ranking, where the rank is declining. Those posts need a little love. Or the pages that are ranking for phrases high on page 2 in Google search results. Those pages need a little love. You can also see these in your acquisition, search console, queries report. That's where you connect Google Analytics to Google Search Console, and it will show you all the phrases for which you rank. And that shows you the right column on that report is your average position. So you can see the phrases that you're ranking for on page 2. You rank like 11 or 12 or 13. Confirm those, search for those phrases, find those pages. Those pages need a little love. So these are the ways to find the pages that are performing well and you can make them great. Find the cheese that's good and you can make it amazing. And and those are that's not that hard to find those things, the pages that almost rank or are declining in rank, or the pages that do well.
And let me put this in context from what you're saying there, and that's why you're saying, page 2, positions 11, 12, 13. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Andy, why you're saying those things is you're not saying pages that rank 40, 50, 60, 70. It's because you're so close, to getting on that top page, which is going to start generating you really good traffic. And if you're right there, those are the ones, the low-hanging fruit that you want to go after first and get those up. So you find the ones that are ranking low on the first page or top of the second page and go for those. As far as re-updating those, potentially applying some, you've mentioned graphics, additional stats, all that's for the user, but then also for search, maybe, take into consideration semantic search or voice intent, search for intent type of writing, basically topical relevance and adding in some various keywords to those so that then when you push it out, hopefully, you start getting, traffic to the page, dwell time, potentially get some link backs, and all that will push you up for the search. And that's what you're looking to identify. That's one of the areas that you're identifying as far as doing a content audit and where, you can help in regards to search. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And here you could say this is applying the 80-20 rule to our own activity. So of all the things that you can do in marketing, there is the 5 minutes it takes to find the striking distance. There's I think Bright Edge calls these phrases striking distance phrases. The time it takes to find those striking distance phrases or those almost high-ranking pages is only minutes. And the time it takes to improve those pages to make them more relevant through the half a dozen things you mentioned or the things I mentioned is also maybe a 15-20 minute job. There are every listener, no doubt, if you and I cracked open their analytics account and took a look, everyone listening to this, every analytics account I've ever seen, and I have access to like 800, they all have low-hanging fruit, striking distance phrases, key phrase opportunities that take minutes to capitalize on that would quadruple the organic traffic to a page by moving it from the top of page 2 to the bottom of page 1. It's very fast.
Yeah, and simply republishing, getting some people to that page might do the trick, right? And re-optimizing or, making sure you go back, because we all learn stuff, every week, and then if you look back 6 months, you're like, oh shit, we didn't do this to this. We didn't tag this correctly. We don't have our alt attributes. We don't have our image tags correct. Or we can rewrite this and look around topical relevance, all of that stuff.
Yeah, or the title tag. The header. The title tag and header. It's often very obvious. It's like even the most obvious. It'll like jump out at you like, oh my God, I didn't even use that word.
Right. Isn't that funny when you do go back and you're like, oh, how did I not do that? And some things just seem so obvious, but I think everyone can appreciate. We all learn more, so when you go back, you're going to have learned something within that time frame, and that helps with the organic side here, right? And I've heard you also mention that there's the three main traffic sources are of marketing or content marketing or SEO, search. Then you have social media and you have email marketing, right? And I think we've touched a bit on SEO. Identifying which pages are almost or low on the first page or upwards of the second page and about to rank. So those are your low-hanging fruit that you want to go after and repurpose for two reasons. One, so it can get you ranked, but number two, it's obviously done something right. So you're almost there. So that's a good indicator that it was a good piece of content. So would love for you to touch on, identifying this with social and email and what kind of activity. How do you identify? What do you identify? And what do you do?
Well, social and email are more similar to each other because they're both more based on human psychology. So if that thing worked, if something that works well as a social media post, like the headline in social, it's very similar psychology to the visitor looking at the potential visitor looking at their email inbox. So subject lines in social media posts, if something works well in one, it will probably work better and it will work well in another. In fact, just quick side note, your next great email subject line is probably waiting for you in Facebook Insights if you use Facebook at all, because you can just see whatever your top shared posts were. That has stopping power that's likely to work well in email just the way it worked in social.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, but a fast way to see what got the most social traction on your site is to just put your own domain into BuzzSumo and buzzsumo.com, and it's going to, even the free version will show you the top 5, I think, and you will see which of your articles over the last year, or I think with the paid version you get 2 years, what got the most traction in which social network. So that's an immediate, obvious way to see the outperformers, the 80-20 rule there, like the huge outliers, and it's always true, right? Some of these things will get hundreds or maybe 1,000 plus shares, and then many, most of them get virtually none.
And so what you're saying is that's how you identify it, then go back and make that content better, and then redo it. Re-enter it into your content distribution phase, I guess. That's what we call it, at least.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I'm hearing, right? So for email, for search, we talked about that, identifying there, improving there. Social, you gave us an indicator, but in BuzzSumo, that's not a very expensive. You even mentioned a free tool, so you can at least start there. But it's not a very expensive tool. And then, so that's how we identify on social. And then again, go back to the same methodology, everything that Andy mentioned at the beginning, all the things that you can do to make it better. And email, you mentioned your next great subject line will be through studying your social, but do you have any other pointers on email?
Well, email, what I think people struggle with email after they do a content audit and they decide, to relaunch an article is they worry that, and rightly so, that their list is going to fatigue from that topic because they published it a year ago and, they're worried that these people have already seen this thing. It's actually, I would challenge anyone to see if they get that feedback, because the percentage of people who open, and then the percentage who click, and the percentage of people who read it, and the percentage of people who read it and perceive it to be recycled, you're down into a very tiny number, so I think we all need to be comfortable with the idea of relaunching things after you've added value to them.
But don't forget what you just said right there. You've added value to it. So even if those people notice that, you brought something else to the table. Yeah.
And before I forget, one of the giveaways that this thing is recycled, it might be the comments. So we kind of have to make decisions about what to do with the old comments if there are any.
On social?
Just on the post. If the post had comments from before, you've got to make a judgment call about whether or not to delete those old comments. One thing comments do is they include dates usually, so the visitor is going to see that this, I got the email just now this morning. Look, I thought this just went live, and there are comments from 2014. But that shouldn't be like a major moment of friction.
And I've seen some really big marketing sites not get into comments on blogs anyway. Some people do, but I mean, I've seen some big players, for smaller people, you're just not going to get a lot of comments a lot. The only blogs that I see that have tons of comments are pretty big players, and they have a really wide audience. But then even some of those big players with wide audiences, they either have their comments turned off or they're just not getting comments on their blog, which is weird because they have a ton of shares and stuff. So maybe they have the comments turned off, or maybe so. Yeah, I mean, if you do have that, and correct me, if you agree or not, but I would say, just delete those comments and just turn the comments off on that one if it's going to make it appear way too old. What would you do?
Well, you bring up an even better question, because comments are very hard to elicit from an audience, even for big blogs. I think we should be asking ourselves tough questions about our own sites, and I think it's an awesome way to network with people, and it's a great way to do influencer marketing and to collaborate with people on their articles, and leaving comments is a great way to get visibility with someone else on their sites. But just ask the tough question, like, do the majority of articles on your own site ever receive a comment? If not, you've got 0 comments on everything. And if that's true, you basically have negative social proof. Every one of your articles says, be the first to comment. It's like, I'm at the party and no one's here. I think that we should ask ourselves how important comments are to our content strategy, and be realistic. If you're not successful in eliciting them, we could do a separate podcast about how to get people to comment, but I think that a lot of people should just not have comments on there, and instead have related articles or a content offer, some kind of upgrade, or some other. I mean, of all the calls to action, really, how important is a comment? It's not critical.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's how I see it too. And again, just for everybody else, if you're a small, medium business, even decently sized, just do understand that there are big, like, publishers and media outlets that don't have comments turned on. So it's not like a completely bad practice at all. It's just a decision. So, okay, well, cool. Awesome. So we've talked a lot about identifying opportunities as far as where traffic's coming in to get more traffic, be it, social. We touched a little bit on email, but that's going to come from some of your social audit, your content audit to get things ranked. We're looking at where the drivers of traffic are to make those better, and we're identifying just topics of interest in general that, again, will help out socially. So now let's move on to finding the conversion champions. The other piece of the puzzle here. Good traffic and high conversion, right? And I believe you've developed a 5-step process here. Can you enlighten us on that?
Sure, although it's like a quiz. I have to remember them in order, huh?
Well, I have them written down for you if you want, because I was always better on tests where I had resources, and then I let my creativity go, because I'm trying to not say negative things about myself, but I have not always been the best memorizer, but I plan to get better at that. So let me just tell you, you have set your date range and analytics for at least a year, go to conversions, goals, reverse path, set goal to newsletter subscribers. I believe you have, and then I don't know, I skipped to number 5 for some reason, so hopefully you can fill in number 4 and support the data. So hopefully they get you in the right place.
I remember this, So here's the idea. Visitors, I'm going to make 2 assumptions. One is that visitors to your website can subscribe to your newsletter list directly from a blog post. We should all have either some kind of sign-up opportunity, like a blog, like a pop-up box on the blog. A lot of people have. I'm not using that, but there's lots of ways to do it. Some kind of sticky footer or sticky header, or a right rail that stays there with the visitor, or some calls to action, or some inline call to action, so that visitors to your blog can sign up, right? We should all have that. That's one of the most important conversions. The other thing is that you've got goals set up properly, so that visitors who take that action, you're tracking them separately. It's a goal, it's probably a destination goal, so it would have a thank you page from that conversion. If you've got that in place, and we should all have that in place if you're a content marketer, then you can go to analytics and see, this is kind of magical to me, what percentage of visitors who read each article then subscribed and you can measure the conversion rate from visitor to subscriber per article. So that is going to tell us which are the best mousetraps. It's content audit to measure to discover the outliers, their outperformers, 80-20 rule for conversions. So yes, I'm glad you gave me that quick trigger reminder, because yes, for most of us, we don't have mega popular websites, so we need a lot of data to get this, because the total numbers will be pretty low if people not 100% of people are converting, of course. So give yourself a good chunk of data by choosing a nice long date range.
Even like a year.
Even like a year, yeah. Mm-hmm. Some of these, the outperformers have been outperforming for a long time. Mm-hmm. Next, there is a report in analytics under conversions. Analytics is A, B, C, acquisition, behavior, conversion. Those are the order of the charts and of the reports on the left. So under conversions, there is under the goals section, there's a report called reverse goal path. The goal path would be what people did. They went from A to B to C and converted. The reverse goal path would show CBA. The thank you page is C, and the page right before that was probably the blog post. Mm-hmm. Right? Depending on how the site was built, if there's no thank you page, then the left column is going to be the blog post. Or if your site has a blog post that they then go to.
Wait, back up. You can do a conversion without having a thank you page?
Well, you can if it's set up with event tracking.
Yeah, but most people aren't going to have that.
Probably not.
Best practice, you need thank you pages, right? For multiple reasons, right? For conversion tracking, potentially having them convert something else. Right?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
so let's make sure we just direct people down. You must have you have to have thank you pages. If you're working for yourself, it'll give you the insights. If you're working with an agency, we have to have one, or else we're flying blind. So, and we'll make them for people, of course, but assuming that there's no resistance, which there's normally never is. But right, let's just say that get a thank you page, right? And it's so you can do tracking and like I said, other opportunities to communicate another time.
Absolutely, without question. Excellent point. The goal of marketing is the thank you page. The whole point of everything we do is the thank you page. All marketing and
sales
and websites, yeah.
But you're right, though, right before that.
Everything we do is building a bridge from either Facebook or Google to the thank you page. Mm-hmm. That's the whole job. That's everything we do every day, right? Yep. We're just creating this efficient bridge to move people from there to there. So the thank you page. So, Dave, what you just said is, it's as opposed to a thank you message. We want a page, a URL, a page with a URL, and that's easy to set up in analytics as a goal. It's called a destination goal. Thank you page is also a marketing opportunity because you can give them a subsequent conversion opportunity. You can give them additional content to click through to. There's like 11 great things about thank you pages, and they're underestimated in their value. But yeah, okay, let's assume they got a thank you page. So the reverse goal path will have the thank you page in the first column, and the column to the right of that will be whatever they were doing right before they converted. So for most of us, that's going to be the blog post. So this step shows you the total number of people who went to each blog post and then converted. That is extremely useful, but it's not quite enough because we're not looking for the total conversions from visitors to subscribers per blog post. We're looking for the conversion rate from visitors to subscribers per blog post. To calculate the conversion rate, you need to get the total conversions from this report, the reverse goal path report, and then you need to go to the page views from the behavior site content all pages report and combine those, dividing the total conversions by the number of page views. A little bit of math, a little bit of spreadsheet work. But all I'm doing is taking the total number of people who read that article and subscribed and dividing that by the total number of people who viewed that article. And now I can see the conversion rate, the percentage of people who read each article and then subscribed. And that is gold. Because as soon as you do this, and it might be manual, it might be a hassle, it might be easy because you use a tool. There's tools that try to do this for you. Once you do that, you are going to know at a glance exactly which of your posts convert visitors to subscribers at what rate. And you might have some that convert very well, almost 1% of people who read them subscribe, and you might have some that convert horribly, 0.001% of people who read them subscribe. So now there's your 80-20 rule again. There's a tiny number of your articles that are insanely compelling, they're inspirational, and they convert like champs. A great percentage of people who read them subscribe. Those are the ones, even if you don't rewrite them, maybe you don't touch them, but those are the ones that you should be doing everything possible to drive more traffic to.
And let me break this out a little bit and what I'm hearing and why you're concentrating on the percentage, because you might not know, and you might not have put any dollars or really put a focus on driving people to that page, and you might have put a lot of dollars and a lot of efforts to driving people to another page that you assumed would be the high converting page. And this allows you to figure that out and like, whoa, okay, we need to start pushing this one out because people are converting at such a higher clip whenever they get here. Is that basically your line of thinking?
Exactly. And if you don't know the rate, if you only know the raw number, you can look at the reverse goal path report and say, oh, that one converted 100 people. That one converted 10. Therefore, the one that converted 100 people is the better post. That's my conversion champion. But actually, if you look at the amount of traffic to these, the one that converted 100 people maybe had 100,000 visits, and one in 1,000
by that as a traffic champion.
Right. Only 1 in 1,000 people who read it converted. But the one that converted 10 people, maybe only a few hundred people read it.
So what do you do? What do you do when you identify those two things? You see that traffic champion, you see the conversion champion. Other related readings it's I'm going to call it okay. What else do you do to like within a blog that's the traffic champion to push people over there? Do you have any what have you seen work best for you?
Yeah. So what you're getting to is one of the most effective things you can do in all of digital marketing, which is to draw a short line between the traffic champ and the conversion champ, to put the great mousetrap and the great cheese together. So internal linking is your first and fastest action because it takes only 2 seconds to make a link halfway down the traffic champ that says related article and just link people over to the conversion champ.
Like in the middle of the article.
I don't wait till the end because...
Like, how do you do it, though? Is it like an image block?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just hypertext that says, and you might want to read here. I mean, you can do that. But what do you do, like, when you're like, holy crap, we have got to connect these two in any means possible and as heavy as we can. What do you do when you identify this golden opportunity?
It's a fun question because... this is something that is so valuable and variable that it's worth testing and experimenting with. So what I find people doing more and more now, even on like media websites and newspapers and big blogs, is just doing it with a simple text link. Just a horizontal rule, and then
when you say text link, horizontal, like I just want to visualize since we're not like doing a webinar right now, right? Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you can put like a block image like. Mm-hmm. of the blog post, like right in the middle of, or mm-hmm. And then you could also do links of, mm-hmm. hyperlink parts of the article, anchor text, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And then at the bottom you can have other related readings, right? Mm-hmm. Do you do all 3 of those, or is it you say text link? Describe what you mean exactly by that, because you're the conversion king, right? And I'd love to hear what you do for situations like that.
Well, the key is to understand the visitor's psychology and to do things within context that will trigger the action that you're trying to, the desired outcome. So what I'm experimenting with and seeing working well is what we call the inline CTA. The call to action is in the flow of the article. Mm. There's a percentage of people who will get all the way down to the bottom, but the farther down you go, the lower the percentage is. So putting something higher up in the page, like halfway down, is going to be seen by a greater percentage of people. You just met half your goal. Make it visible. The next thing that you're trying to do is to increase the percentage of people who see it and then take action. Why do people act on something? Well, one thing is it doesn't look like an ad. It looks like it has value. So we have to be wary of banner blindness. Mm-hmm. if you're making something, don't put banners for yourself on your website. Everyone knows banner click-through rates are horrible, so you're not advertising for yourself. What you're doing is offering the visitor a chance to get more value. So you're using any psychological trick that you can to indicate value or urgency or scarcity or context, anything that aligns well with what they might need at the time. And the second thing is you're really just you're making it native, and it is native because it's you. So that's the hilarious thing about people putting banners on their own websites. They're not, their native advertising is effective because it looks like it fits. People do like non-native advertising even when it is native by trying to advertise for themselves on their sites. Yeah. It's silly. But I would actually just experiment with a simple word related and then a colon and then a blue underlined link of, just hyperlink that uses all of the tactics that you can use in any social post, any subject line, using numbers, using trigger words, anything that would indicate to the visitor that is something that is worth checking out.
And do you put like white space? Is that like it's its own one or two sentences?
Even shorter. Because
but it's even shorter, but it's like its own single line. It's not within the paragraph in a particular paragraph. It's like separated, its own line, its own.
I see that working. A horizontal rule above and a horizontal rule below, and one word related with a link. I think that's those are actually performing pretty well, and that's why you're seeing them more and more on media sites.
Okay.
But also just
send me
in
an example
the flow.
If you can. I'd love to include it in the blog post.
Sure.
Like like a screenshot of one. Because I want to give people an idea here. Because this is, hope everyone's who's listening is really paying attention to this part. Because this is a kind of a culmination of a lot of what we're talking about. You do all the work, you identify, now you're taking action, and this is a big one. If you identify traffic champion, lots of traffic going to that page, and then you've identified your conversion page, connecting these two is paramount. So that's basically what we've kind of gotten to in this conversation, and it's gold. But how you do it, that's where creativity comes in, looking at other ideas, having your own ideas, testing, doing different things. So Andy, I would love to see that.
Sure.
Do you have anything else to add on that? Anything else you said you're testing different things?
Well, there's something I'm seeing Unbounce test, and those guys are the real conversion kings. They're going the other direction, and they put in a content upgrade. So I download this guide or white paper as a call to action, inline CTA. It's in the flow of the content, and it's using all of their, color as a pattern interrupter. It's using a visual. It's an offer. So they've got a present included there, right? It's like visually prominent. It's got everything. It's got all the whole, set of best practices, but it's large. The benefit of it being large is that it basically dominates the scroll depth. So as you move past it, there's a moment where you're mostly seeing just that. So I like that one too. I like the little kind of camouflaged link, like it just blends right in. Not camouflaged. There's nothing disingenuous about this. Or I like the really big, call to action with the content upgrade. It's the in between that looks like an ad that I think is the weakest link. It's like either go big with a giant visual and an offer, or just scoop that in there with a tiny little text link as a suggestion. Those are likely to perform better than something that's sort of visual and easily skipped past.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I said, yes, send over a screenshot. I'd like to see so we can share some visuals in the blog. Mm-hmm. We actually get more people reading the blog than the podcast anyways. So, so do that. That'd be awesome. Well, okay, cool. Let's do a little bit of recap before we get to kind of some final touch-up questions. We have our traffic champions. These are these are your pages that we've identified that get you the most traffic. and our actions on these. Andy, I'll just let you, I'll state what we've reviewed, and then I'll just let you fill in the blanks here. So those are the traffic champions. Again, this is a recap. What are the actions for those again, Andy? I mean, we kind of just talked about it ad nauseum right now, but basically we want to link to our high converting pages. I'll cover that one for you.
Yep.
We just talked about it for 15 minutes.
Yep.
Potential champions. These are pages with low search traffic but high link popularity or potentially page authority. We didn't necessarily talk about link popularity or page authority, so if you want to touch on that, go ahead, and then if you could give your action there.
Yeah, so that's when we said don't change the URL, that's what we were talking about. There may be links to that URL. That page may have authority. If you were to change the URL, you'd break those links from other websites. You could make a 301 redirect, but why even bother? It's better to keep the 100% of the link equity by keeping the URL the same. So definitely you can basically leverage all of the links that you've attracted over the years to that URL. That you may have a lot of pages on your site that have lots of links to them, but aren't that relevant for any topic in particular. So writing a page that has high authority, but rewriting a page that has high authority but low relevance is a killer outcome from a quick content audit.
Gotcha. And to circle back to traffic champions, you can rewrite those if you want, but you might not want to change too much on those, but you could if you have a lot to add. The potential champions, you're saying, hey, go ahead and give this one a full makeover. Is that accurate, or would you say?
Yes, the potential champion is some of the low-hanging fruit stuff that we talked about. It's ranking, but it's ranking high on page 2. Go make that thing. It was good. Go make it great. That's the idea.
Gotcha. Potential champions, falling stars, is that the same sort of thing? Ones that you have declining search traffic, same sort of actions for those?
Exactly right. Yep.
Okay. And the better mousetraps, those are the pages with the high conversion rates. We kind of talked about it, but go ahead and just recap that for us.
So
or other ideas too.
Yep. So these are pages, even if you do, once you discover them and you know that they get a great percentage of visitors who read them and then convert into subscribers, even if you do nothing with them, these are pages that you should put back into heavy social rotation. They'll look more visible instantly. Just immediately share them, right, as soon as you find them. Put them into, if you use a social media automation tool like CoSchedule or Edgar, these are the ones to put in heavy. Yep, meetedgar.com. I'm even a bigger fan of CoSchedule right now, which is an awesome tool. These are also posts that you should consider relaunching with another brand new email. Treat them as if they're new. Freshen up the subject line and the header and make them and put them back in your audience's inbox. Maybe they've been out there for years.
Okay.
And really use any of the non-obvious, traffic driving tactics you possibly can. Put them in your email signature. Consider buying an ad, for these. If you've got a little budget, write a related article that links back to these. Write a roundup of all of your top articles and put these at the top. Put these back on your homepage. Put these back on the top of your blog. Put these there's we made a fun list once of like all these non-obvious places. Put these on, pin these tweets to the top of your Twitter feed, or update your Skype. Your what you're up to, right? Anywhere that you can put information, you can put a link. Take your Facebook header image, which you can add a description to, weirdly, and make a link to this article from there. Just to put them these are the things that you want to make visible through any channel possible.
Gotcha. So these mousetraps are huge. When you identify those, and again, it's not going to, Andy gave you the walkthrough, it's not going to take you long. Once you do that, then you're like, all right, here's everything we need to go and do. And correct me if I'm wrong, that'd be the first thing you would tell somebody to do once they're getting going on this. Am I assuming that correctly?
Yep. Push as many visitors toward those as you possibly can.
Gotcha. And you gave us a lot of good options and ideas there. And bottom line is he just spit out some more, so I'm sure Andy didn't cover all of them. It's basically like, wherever you have visibility, these need to be visible, and that's what you need to do. But you need to know what before you put them up.
That's right, exactly.
Gotcha. All right. Common mistakes. I think I have one in my mind, which would be the conversion versus conversion percentage. But what are some of the common mistakes made when examining the data that you've seen? Like, oh yeah, I've seen this happen over and over, and people get confused here or whatever.
Yeah. Changing a URL and breaking links in other websites would be a mistake. misinterpretation of your social media data, let's say you are using an Edgar or a code schedule, and you've got things that have been in rotation for years and they've gotten more shares, that might be because you've put them in heavy social rotation. So you have to look at your own social data skeptically if you've been boosting posts, or using a social automation tool.
That's why you should go back a year, right? Because you might have all of them. So let's just don't go 2 months, because those are obviously going to be skewed on what you've recently put out.
Which is another common mistake. The recency of your data will skew your analysis because, okay, that thing looks very popular. Oh, because it was the latest thing, and that got a lot of email traffic or something else. But probably, Dave, you got to say it, right? The biggest mistake is is just endlessly publishing medium quality blog posts without ever looking at performance or ever considering improving an article. The biggest mistake is not doing the audit at all.
Yeah, and you know what? And I think the reason for that is because it seems daunting. But if you really just say, hey, don't worry about it all. You're just going to worry about 5-10% of it. And and it sounds like, assuming you have your thank you pages and all that, okay, we're looking at maybe a couple-hour task here to get the visibility, to get the information. And of course, then there'll be a lot of work from there. But at least you'll be working strategically, smartly, and then that rolls into the 80-20 rule of life, right? So. Yeah, no, I hear you, but it's been daunting. I mean, and this is coming from somebody who's pretty intimate.
Yeah, you've been.
So I'm, I only can imagine somebody who's just like, okay, that sounds good. But I think after listening to this and reading the post here, you'll see that no, it's not that daunting, and it can be done. And then you can. It's just the direction, man. Right? It's just like knowing you're going down the right path. You're energized. You're enthusiastic. You're excited. If you're going down a path you have a little doubt about, or you're fearful that you're making the wrong decision, you're just not going to operate with all those positive energies behind you. So that's what I love from getting out of stuff like this. Is just getting that motion started correctly, and then you just have so much clarity. Awesome. Well, Andy, I think we gave people a lot to chew on, but I also think meaning you, made it easy on them. So I really appreciate that, and I think we really greatly helped some people today. Can you either let me know how people can continue to learn from you, or any other good resources you want to point people to?
Well, I think anyone who's listening to this and is doing so from an app should just check out the show notes. And go straight to the site, and you'll find all kinds of stuff there. So we've got diagrams, we've got examples, we've got additional resources. I'm easy to find. Orbitmedia.com is where I write a blog post every 2 weeks. As you mentioned at the top, I speak at a lot of events. LinkedIn's a good network. If you want to find me online, connect with me there. But we're going to, as usual, you're a champ at the show notes, and I'm sure you'll have just a quick way to get to everything we discussed from there.
Okay, awesome. Well, appreciate it, Andy. Always enjoy talking with you, and until next time.
Very good. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the latest podcast. Feel free to go to magnificent.com/blog to see the show notes for this interview, as well as those from many other of the world's top marketing experts. Have a great day.